Welcome back to I Don't Have Time to Read, the channel that takes a deep dive into books. For those of us who, well, don't have time to read them, today we're looking at Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. It's a story about video games, but also so much more than that. It's about friendship, ambition, and the creative process.
It's been called one of the best books of the year. And I can definitely see why. Zevin weaves together all these different themes, and she does it against the backdrop of the world of video games, which is constantly changing and evolving.
Yeah, even the title itself is so interesting. Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. It makes you think about how life keeps going, even when you face setbacks.
It's a great title. It comes from Shakespeare's Macbeth, and it really speaks to how time is fleeting, but our passions can last.
Okay, let's get into the story. The book starts with our two main characters, Sadie and Sam. They meet in a hospital game room. Sadie's there visiting her sick sister, and Sam is recovering from a car accident, a really bad one. The author mentions that Sam's foot was broken in 27 places.
That's not just a random detail. It shows how resilient Sam is, but also how deeply physical trauma can affect a person. It even hints at how obsessed he can be with details, which we see later on in how he designs games.
Right. So they're in this sterile hospital environment, and they find this connection through Nintendo. It's clear from the start that this isn't just a simple childhood friendship. There's a real spark between them.
Yeah. They're drawn to each other's minds, they challenge each other, and they push each other to think differently. Video games become their shared language, a place where they can be themselves.
Years go by, and they live their own separate lives, but their paths keep crossing. We learn about Sadie's relationship with her grandmother, Frida, who is this powerful real estate tycoon.
Frida's a really fascinating character. She built her empire from nothing. And for Sadie, she represents this kind of ambition that's both attractive and scary.
It's like Frida's influence finds its way into Sadie's game designs. We see it in her student project called Solution. It's a game that looks at the dark side of capitalism, using this unsettling image of a factory that makes human skin.
Solution is a great example of how Sadie uses games to deal with these big social issues. It's a really bold and thought-provoking game. It makes players think about their own values and the ethics of consumerism. It shows how unique Sadie's vision is and how she's willing to push boundaries.
And then Sadie and Sam meet again at MIT. Sadie's a student there, and Sam's a Harvard grad. That spark is still there, but now it's more complicated.
Yeah. Their dynamic has changed. There's this rivalry between them, along with that deep connection they have. And then Sadie gets involved with Dove, a married professor.
Oh, wow. Talk about forbidden love. This affair has a huge impact on Sadie, both personally and in her work. It makes her question her choices, and it even affects how she works with others on creative projects.
It's a turning point for her. The affair makes her feel both powerful and ashamed. It shows the power imbalances that can exist, especially in fields like game design that are dominated by men. It pushes Sadie to try and prove herself through her work, to show her talent and her independence.
Right. And in the middle of all this, Sam approaches her with an idea that's going to change their lives. He's inspired by Solution, and he wants them to make a game together. It's called Ichigo, a name suggested by their future business partner, Marx.
Marx is the one who brings their vision to life. He is not a game designer himself, but he can see the big picture. He connects the dots and organizes their creative chaos.
He's like the mastermind behind the scenes, pushing them to use influences from all sorts of places. Who would have thought that a video game could be inspired by Taki Murakami and Brian Eno?
That's what's so great about Marx. He sees how to combine things that seem totally different to make something truly new. And Ichigo becomes a huge success.
It does. But like with any success story, there are things going on beneath the surface. Sam loves being in the spotlight, while Sadie feels like her contributions are being ignored.
This is where you start to see cracks in their partnership. Working together on something creative is always complicated. And the success of Ichigo makes those tensions even worse. Sam, with his charm and charisma, becomes the face of the game. And Sadie's role as the main designer gets lost.
And this resentment, this fight for recognition, it leads to the failure of their second game, both sides.
Right, exactly. Both sides is a flop. And it shows how different their creative visions really are. They're not on the same page anymore, and they can't compromise or acknowledge each other's contributions, which leads to a huge falling out. It really breaks down the partnership and the friendship. It just crumbles under all the pressure of what they hope for. And the resentment that's been building up, it's like even the strongest relationships can be tested by success and how hard it is to work together on something creative.
And then years pass. Sadie's doing really well in her career, succeeding on her own terms. But Sam's struggling, both with work and just in life. He's dealing with chronic pain from that accident when he was a kid. and he feels like he's stuck creatively.
Zevin does such a good job of showing how Sam's physical pain and his emotional struggles are all tied together. The accident, it's always there in the back of his mind, like a ghost, both literally and metaphorically. It's a reminder of how vulnerable he is, of how fragile life can be, and knowing that his time is limited makes him want to reconnect with Sadie even more.
Which leads to them meeting up again.
Right.
Sam asks Sadie to work with him on a new project, a really ambitious MMORPG called Maple World.
Yeah. And this reunion, it's full of dramatic irony. Sam thinks Maple World is their chance to get back to what they had, to recapture that magic. But for Sadie, it's a way to prove herself, to show that she can be successful on her own, and maybe even escape all the baggage from their past failures.
Just to clarify, MMORPG stands for Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. It's like a virtual world where thousands or even millions of players can be online at the same time.
Exactly. It's a genre that takes so much skill, both technical and creative. It really pushes the limits of game design.
Okay, back to Maple World.
For Sam, this game becomes his whole life. He puts everything into it, every detail, every character. It's like he's trying to create a world where people can escape reality and become someone new.
But Maple World also has a dark side. The game causes controversy because it includes LGBTQ+ characters. Some players are really upset about it.
That's one of the things that makes this book so powerful. Zevin doesn't shy away from tough topics, like how hard it can be to make spaces that are inclusive, especially online, where people feel like they can say anything.
And this controversy leads to something terrible, a shooting at Unfair Games, a convention where Maple World is being presented.
It's such a heartbreaking moment. It shows how the line between the virtual world and the real world can get blurred. The shooters are filled with hate, and they feel protected by the anonymity of the internet. They target the game's developers and players, and it shatters any sense of safety that the gaming community might have had.
It makes you think about the worst parts of human nature, about how our online worlds can reflect our real-world prejudices and how dangerous that can be.
And it raises all these questions about the responsibility of people who create games, the ethics of game design, and what happens when hatred is allowed to spread unchecked.
During the shooting, Marks acts heroically. He sacrifices himself to save others. His death leaves a huge hole in Sadie and Sam's lives.
It's a devastating loss for everyone. He represented hope, a belief that games could bring people together and make the world a better place. His death is a reminder of how fragile life is and how unpredictable things can be, and the pain of loss. It stays with you.
Years later, we find Sam heartbroken and still dealing with pain, creating a new game called Pioneers. But this game is different. It's a quiet, personal project, a world made for one player, Sadie.
Pioneers shows how deeply Sam understands Sadie, how much he loves her. It's a world built with such care, reflecting all her interests and passions, even her deepest thoughts and desires.
It's like this grand gesture, a way for him to connect with her on a deeper level, to give her a place of peace and beauty.
But it also makes you wonder about where the line is between love and obsession, between art and intrusion.
Definitely.
Pioneers is such a complex creation. It shows the power of human connection and how far we'll go for the people we love. It makes us think about the limits of personal expression, whether it's okay to use art to influence someone's emotions, and what could happen when you create a world just for one person.
And the fact that Sadie eventually figures out what Pioneers really is, that this whole world was made for her, it adds another layer to their already complicated relationship.
It's a turning point. It forces Sadie to face her feelings for Sam, her grief over Marks's death, and all the unanswered questions from their past.
It's like the past and present are colliding. Love and loss, the virtual and the real.
It makes Sadie see Sam in a new light, question her own desires, and realize how strong their connection still is, even after all the years and all the pain.
The book ends with Sadie teaching a game design seminar, reflecting on everything she's been through and how much working with Sam has shaped her.
It's a nice way to wrap things up. It shows how Sadie has grown as both a creator and a person. It also shows how creativity works in cycles, how our experiences, good and bad, influence our artistic vision and inspire us to teach others.
And then at the very end, in a twist that kind of mirrors their whole relationship, they get asked to make a sequel to Ichigo.
It's an ending that leaves you with so many questions. So much is left open.
Does that mean they're going to try working together again? Can they get past all the hurt and resentment?
Zevin doesn't give us any easy answers. It's up to us to decide. Just like in real life, you think you've reached the end, and then a new chapter starts, full of possibilities, but also uncertainty.
I love how the book doesn't try to make their relationship perfect, Sadie and Sam's connection. It feels so real, so messy, so human.
Yeah.
It's not a fairy tale. It's about how complicated love can be, and ambition, and what it means to create something with someone else.
Well, it really makes you think. But the choices we make, the paths we take, and the people who shape our lives.
Totally. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. It's not just about video games. It's about life itself, about creativity, about how we connect with each other, and how we deal with the big questions.
There's this one scene that I keep coming back to. It really captures the essence of the book. When Sam takes Sadie to the glass flowers exhibit at Harvard, it's his way of proposing to her, asking her to work on their first game together.
Oh, yeah. That scene was amazing. The way those glass flowers look so delicate, but they're also so strong. It's like a metaphor for their relationship.
Exactly. It shows how fragile and resilient human connection can be, just like those flowers. True friendship and love can endure, even after going through tough times.
So for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
what did you think of the book? What parts resonated with you?
I think tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow reminds us that life is a journey. There are different levels to get through, challenges to overcome, and connections we make along the way.
It makes you want to embrace your own creativity, to find your people, and never give up on doing something meaningful.
Even if you haven't read the book yet, I hope this deep dive has made you curious. It's a story that stays with you, makes you think about your own relationships, your passions, and what you want to leave behind.
Maybe it'll even inspire you to create something of your own Ichigo, your own maple world, your own pioneers. The world needs your story.
Until next time, happy gaming.